The train rattles like teeth in a dead man's skull as Deacon James sags against the window, hat pulled low over his eyes. Only a few share the wide, orange-lit carriage with him. A young Chinese family, the children knotted like kittens over the laps of the adults. An undertaker in his Sunday grim, starched collar and golden cufflinks on each sleeve. Two young black women trading gossip in rich contraltos. Stutter, jangle, shove, shriek. The train shudders on, singing a hymn of disrepair. Deacon looks up as civilization robs the night of its endlessness, finger-painting globs of light and farmhouses across the countryside. In the distance, Arkham sits waiting near the dark mouth of the river, a rivulet of silver crawling to the sea. Deacon sighs and closes long fingers around the handle of his instrument case. The journey had been long, lonely, marked by grief for the dead and grief for himself. Every child knows they're going to outlive their parents, but understanding is no opiate, can only mitigate. Knowledge can only propagate a trust that someday this will be okay. But not yet, not yet. What Deacon wishes for, more than anything else, is someone to tell him what to do in this period between hurting and healing, neither here nor there, the ache growing septic. What do you do when the funeral is over, but your heart is still broken? When all the condolences have been spoken, and the mourners have gone shuffling home, and you're left to stare at the wall, so raw and empty that you don't know if you'll ever be whole again? He breathes in, breathes out, drags the musty heat of the carriage, too warm by half, into his bones before relaxing. 1 second, Deacon reminds himself. 1 minute, 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week at a time. You had to take each moment as it came, or you'd go mad from the yearning. He strokes his fingers across polished wood. In the back of his head, he feels the thump of music again, a powerful, insistent rhythm yearning to be expressed. But it'd be rude, wouldn't it? Deacon traces the iron latches on his case and the places where the paint has faded and flaked, rubbed out by sweat and fingertips. A carriage of late evening travelers, all hungry for home. Is he cold enough to interrupt their vigil? The music twitches, eager and invasive. It wouldn't be an imposition. It hardly could be. After all, Deacon can sing a bird from a tree, or that's what they've told him at least. "It'd be good," whispers the melody, all sibilant. "It'd be good for you and them." "Why not?" Deacon says to no one in particular, scanning the quiet. His voice is steady, powerful, the bass of a Sunday pastor, booming from the deep well of his chest. A few slide-lidded gazes at him, but no one speaks, too worn down by the road. "Why not?" croons the music in simpatico, a miasmatic echo pressing down behind his right eye. Deacon knows, although he couldn't begin to tell anyone how, that the pressure will alleviate if he plays, if he puts sentiment to sound, that he'd stop hurting just for a little while, and wouldn't that be worth it? Why not? Deacon thinks again, a little guilty, flipping open the case, the brass of his saxophone gleaming gold in the dim light of the train. The music in his skull grows louder, more insistent. Doc Boggs. Oh, death. How about that? Something easy and sad, none too obtrusive. His father would have appreciated the irony. Deacon sets his lips to the mouthpiece and his fingers to the keys. Exhales. But the sound that comes out is nothing so sweet, full of teeth instead. Like the song's a dog that needs to eat, and he's a bone in its grip. Like it's hungry. The description jumps at Deacon, a crazed whine of a thought, before the song grabs him and devours him whole. Raw, unevenly syncopated, the music's a clatter of droning notes, looping into themselves, like a man mumbling a prayer. Briefly, Deacon wonders where he heard it, where he picked it up, because there is nothing in the music that tastes familiar. No trace of the blues, no ghost of folk music, not even the wine-drunk laughter of big city jazz or the thunder of the gospel. Only a hard lump of yearning that snags like fish bones in his throat as he plays, plays, plays. Improvisation after improvisation, frantically straining to wrench the bass line into familiar waters. But it won't relent. Instead, it drags him along, down, 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 and under, deep into arpeggios for chords yet uninvented. And Deacon keeps playing to its tune, a man possessed, lungs jolting with every new refrain, even as the music mutates from a hypnotic adagio to a crashing, senseless avalanche of notes. Just sound and a fire that eats through him, and yet, somehow, Deacon cannot stop. The lights shudder and swing, chains rattling, and suddenly there is nothing to stop, and it is over, and he is free. And Deacon is slumping into his seat, throat still foaming with the memory of the noise. His fingers burn. The skin is blistered and red. He knows in the morning they'll swell with pus, become puffy and useless until he pricks the epidermis and bleeds the fluids away. Yet still, the song is there, throbbing like a hangover. Softer now, sure, and quiet enough to ignore for a few hours, but still there, still waiting. He wets his lips. Growing up, Deacon never had an interest in any drug except the kind you could write into an eighth-note shuffle rhythm, but he had friends who'd succumbed to the seduction of narcotics. They'd always tell him the same thing, that when they weren't high, the longing would suck at them like a missing tooth. This new music felt like that. Wrong, unclean. Deacon shivers. All at once, he finds himself unable to shake the idea that there might be something burrowing through his skull, something unholy, voracious, a gleaming black beetle appetite that'll gobble him up and leave him none the wiser. So vivid is the image that it sends Deacon to his feet and away from his seat, breath shallowed into slivers, all sticking in the membrane of his mouth. Air, he thinks. He needs air, water. To be somewhere other than where he already is, to be on his feet, moving, away from the horror that clings to the hem of his mind like the fingers of a childhood nightmare. And as Deacon stumbles through the carriage, drunk on terror, he thinks he can almost hear the music laugh. This is what Deacon sees in the windows as he weaves between carriages. 1. The landscape, blurred into protean shapes. Jagged peaks thickening to walls, valleys fracturing into ravines, black pines melting into blasted plains. In the sky, the stars swarm, an infection of white, 1,000 cataracted eyes. There is nothing human here, no vestige of man's influence, only night, only blackness. 2. His face, reflected in the cold glass. Deacon looks thinner than he remembers, grief-gnawed, cheekbones picked clean of softness. His eyes are old from putting his paw into the soil and holding on to his mother as she cried bargains into his shoulder, anything to pluck the man she loves from the grave and put him back where he belongs, safe in her arms. 3. Mouths, toothless, tongueless, opening in the windows, lesions on a leper's back, crowding the translucent panes until there is nothing but smacking lips, wet throats. What in Jesus? Deacon recoils from the window, nearly tripping into the half-open door of a private cabin, an audacity that buys him a round of profanities from its occupants. He stammers an apology, but never finishes. A rangy cowboy stands, shoves him back into the corridor, a gesture that is wholly simian, swaggering arms and puffed-up xylophone chest under the drooping rim of his hat. Deacon stares at him, fingers tight around the handle of his case, body tense. He was careless. He shouldn't have been careless. He knows better than to be careless, but the carriages aren't nearly as well demarcated as they could be, the paneling too unobtrusive, too coy about its purpose. Or maybe, Deacon thinks, with a backward glance, he'd really messed up somehow, too caught up in a conversation with grief. He breathes in, sharp, air slithering between his teeth. The man swills a word in his mouth, the syllables convulsing his face into a snarl, and Deacon can already hear it loud. After all, he's heard it 10,000 times before, can read its coming in the upbeat alone. Sang, spat, or smoothed through the smile of an angel. Every variation of delivery, every style of excuse, every explanation for why it ain't nothing but a word for people like him, innocent as you please. Yes, Deacon's heard it all. 35 years on God's green earth is more than enough time to write someone else's hate into the roots of your pulse. So it isn't until the man smiles, a dog's long-toothed grin, that dread frissons down the long curve of the blue man's spine. You broke our whiskey bottle. Didn't mean to, sir. Polite, poured smooth as caramel, like everything innocuous and sweet. It's his best, "I don't mean trouble, sir," voice, wedded on too many late nights spent talking drunks out of bad decisions. The bottle in question rolls between them, unstoppered and undamaged. But Deacon says anyway, "Be happy to pay for the damages." A lie that will starve him, but hungers nothing that the bluesman isn't acquainted with. And besides, there is a gig coming up. Small time, sure, and half driven by sentimentality. Deacon and his father had meant to play there before it all gone wrong. Either way, money is money is money, and a cramped diner haunted by insomniacs is as good as any joint. If he's lucky, they might even feed him, too. Stacks of buttermilk pancakes and two-crist bacon, whatever detritus they have left over. All the meals sent back because they're missing an ingredient or have too much of another. I didn't say I want payment. His voice slaps Deacon from his reverie. The cowboy, reeking of red Arizona dust, lets his grin grow mean. Did I say I want payment? That word again, groaned like a sweetheart's name. He slides his tongue over the vowels, slow, savoring its killing floor history, an entire opus of wrongs performed in the name of Jim Crow. What did I say? And the word is a rattlesnake hiss this time, sliding between uneven teeth. You said I broke your whiskey bottle? The cowboy advances, a chink of spurs keeping rhythm. In the gloom behind him, Deacon sees silhouettes rise up. 3 leathery men, ropey as coyotes, but nonetheless still broader than Deacon at the shoulder, their smiles like dirty little switchblades. And behind them, a forest of mouths and lolling tongues, grinning like the devil called home to supper. Horns, teethed, tendrils dewed with eyes. The smell of sweat, meltwater, black earth sweet with decay and mulch. Something takes a trembling fawn-legged step forward. A cut of light bands itself across a sunken chest, crisscrossed with too many ribs. The music rouses, a damp ache in his lungs. This isn't the time, he thinks, as the beat clanks out a hollow straight 4, like the shuffle of the train as it is swallowed by the mountain pass. The windows go black. Somewhere, a door opens, and there's a roar of noise. The chug-chug clack of the train's wheels, and a cold, howling wind. Deacon glides backward, one long step, blinks again, eyes rheumy. Arpeggios twitch at his fingertips, and though he tells himself no, his mind is already finger-picking an elegy in distorted D minor. The cowboy and his pack close in, hounds with a scent. A door bangs shut. Please,
Deacon whispers, unsure who he is addressing or even what for, the syllable clutched like some wise woman's favor, worthless in the blaze of day. Back pressed flat to the glass, he knows what's next. Fists and boots and spurs, initialing themselves over his back. It's easy to be vicious when you can call the law to heel. Deacon's arms wrap tight about his instrument case as he shuts his eyes. But the blows don't come. "Excuse me." Deacon opens his gaze to a stranger in the corridor, a silhouette sliced thin by the swinging lights. It moves jerkily, a marionette learning to walk without its strings, head tick-tocking through the approach. But when it shucks its fedora, the man well-dressed as any entrepreneur, in a gray tweed coat and whiskey-sheen tie, shoes polished to an indulgent shine, does so with grace, one sleek motion to move hat over heart. Gents. Light smears over gaunt cheekbones and a feral grin, like something that had been left to starve. His voice is Midwestern mild, neither deep nor shrill, a vehicle for thought and no more. His skin, bronze. The eyes are almost gold. Hope I'm not intruding. The music skitters back, recedes into a throbbing behind Deacon's eyeballs. Really, off. The cowboy spits, running blue eyes over the interloper, upper lip curled. "This ain't your business." The newcomer sighs, just so, the smallest of noises, as he sloughs oiled black gloves. His hands belong to a boxer, thick, calloused, knuckles bridged with scars. Crack, he pops the joints. "Real hard number, aren't ya? Sorry, chump, it's definitely my business." See? Deacon James. Scalpels through the bluesman's guts. He hadn't said his name once since coming on board, not even to the conductor, who'd only smiled and nodded as he punched Deacon's ticket, humming "Hard Luck Child" like a prayer for the working man. He's in possession of something I need. And consequently, the man straightens, tucking his gloves into a breast pocket, taller than any of them by a head and a little more. His eyes are burnt honey, and in the dim, they almost glow. I hope I'm not intruding. The music skitters back, recedes into a throbbing behind Deacon's eyeballs. Really? Off. The cowboy spits, running blue eyes over the interloper, upper lip curled. "This ain't your business." The newcomer sighs. Just so, the smallest of noises, as he sloughs oiled black gloves. His hands belong to a boxer, thick, calloused, knuckles bridged with scars. Crack, he pops the joints. "Real hard number, aren't ya? Sorry, chump, it's definitely my business." See? Deacon James. Scalpels through the bluesman's guts. He hadn't said his name once since coming on board, not even to the conductor, who'd only smiled and nodded as he punched Deacon's ticket, humming "Hard Luck Child" like a prayer for the working man. He's in possession of something I need. And consequently, the man straightens, tucking his gloves into a breast pocket, taller than any of them by a head and a little more. His eyes are burnt honey, and in the dim, they almost glow. I hope I'm not intruding. The music skitters back, recedes into a throbbing behind Deacon's eyeballs. Really? Off. The cowboy spits, running blue eyes over the interloper, upper lip curled. "This ain't your business." The newcomer sighs. Just so, the smallest of noises, as he sloughs oiled black gloves. His hands belong to a boxer, thick, calloused, knuckles bridged with scars. Crack, he pops the joints. "Real hard number, aren't ya? Sorry, chump, it's definitely my business." See? Deacon James. Scalpels through the bluesman's guts. He hadn't said his name once since coming on board, not even to the conductor, who'd only smiled and nodded as he punched Deacon's ticket, humming Hard Luck Child like a prayer for the working man. He's in possession of something I need. And consequently, the man straightens, tucking his gloves into a breast pocket, taller than any of them by a head and a little more. His eyes are burnt honey, and in the dim, they almost glow. I hope I'm not intruding. The music skitters back, recedes into a throbbing behind Deacon's eyeballs. Really? Off. The cowboy spits, running blue eyes over the interloper, upper lip curled. This ain't your business. The newcomer sighs. Just so, the smallest of noises, as he sloughs oiled black gloves. His hands belong to a boxer, thick, calloused, knuckles bridged with scars. Crack, he pops the joints. Real hard number, aren't ya? Sorry, chump, it's
His only relic of the man, outside of his crooked smile and strident voice, reflected in every mirror-ward glance, not the instrument. You can keep that. There's something about the man's expression, the muscles palsied in places, the eyes lamplit. Something that comes together in a word like inhuman. I need what's in your head. I don't understand what you're talking about. The music crests, louder, louder, a layer of clicks running counterpoint to a hissing refrain, a television dialed to static. No melody as Deacon understands it, and somehow more potent for that reason. He almost doesn't notice when the stranger leans in, no longer smiling, his skin drawn tight over his bones. Drop the act. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You're listening to the bird right now. He taps his temple with a finger. The train lurches, slows. Somewhere, the conductor's hollering, "Last stop! Everyone get off!" Scratching at the inside of your skull, chirping away, remaking the world every time you sing for the primordial lady. You're crazy. Yes, yes, yes. A single word like a record skipping, an oozing female voice stitched into the backbeat of a three-chord psalm to damnation. There's something growing inside your head, champ. When she hatches, we're all gonna dance on air. Yes, 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 yes. And just for a minute, reality unlatches, long enough and far enough that Deacon can look through it and bear witness to the stranger's lurking truth. A teeming life curled inside the arteries of the man, wearing his skin like a suit. Not as much a thing as it is the glimmering idea of a thing, worming hooks through the supine brain. It takes a fistful of heartbeats before Deacon realizes he's screaming, screaming as though stopping has long since ceased to be an option. The music in his skull wails, furious, and all the while Deacon's backing away, stumbling over his own feet. A door behind the stranger bangs open, admitting a conductor, scraggly and sunken-eyed from being dug from his sleep. "Hey, what's going on here? You know you people ain't allowed in this carriage." The stranger turns, and Deacon runs. "Thanks, April. You're a lifesaver." Deacon laces his fingers around the warm mug, steam rising from its lip like lace. The New England weather is worse than he'd thought it would be, a biting chill coarsened by the ocean wind. But at least his coffee is hot, a chicory-cut brew with a finger of milk, woody and slightly sweet-sour. He takes a sip and then dusts sugar from his beignet before ripping the pastry in two, the smaller half consumed in a bite. The diner bustles around him, swaddling him in normal, the sounds of people coming and going, the clink of cutlery, soft conversation, the waitresses reciting 6 variations of "Do you need anything?" No place for monsters. Not with the till chiming and children bawling, the diner more packed than he thought it would be, nearly every booth occupied. Normal, Deacon repeats to himself, rolling the word like a rosary bead, even though a full house at 2 a.m. is anything but. A frown rucks his brow. In the corner, someone sags against their cello, an arm around its neck.
There's something about the stick-boned form and the way it plucks, sulfate dark to light, light to dark, that tugs at Deacon's attention. "Anytime," April grins, hair tightly braided against her scalp, accent glazed with a New Orleans drawl. Her eyes follow Deacon's gaze. "You know them?" "Nah, thought you did. Figured it was some opening act you hadn't told me about." Another bite. Another long draught of his coffee, still almost hot enough to scald. Jesus, no. A jagged laugh and a grin to match. April skims a hand over her head. Between taxes and everything else, well, you can see for yourself. Sophia's is on the better side of dilapidated, its walls fresh painted, but its windows cracked. The diner could stand refurbishment, there's no question of that. Better chairs, a better class of clientele. But Deacon, never one to impose an opinion, says nothing, and April, too tired to be proud, says nothing back. They both know better. There are places in the gambrel-woofed city where a black man shouldn't venture, sure. The cathedral, the hospital, the mom-and-pop shops slithering toward the sea. But Arkham is still a municipality that allows a black woman, fresh from Louisiana and married to a ghost, to operate her own business. In this day and age, that is something to cherish. Still, sorry about the setup. Deacon shrugs and walks his gaze to the makeshift stage, a 4x6 rectangle of planks stacked 3 inches tall. Dark, wine-colored stains blotch the unvarnished wood. A single stool occupies its center, no microphone in sight. Maybe it was a blessing that his father couldn't make it here. There'd be no place to stand. The thought hooks around a rib, tugs, and Deacon pushes down, down on an ache grown too familiar, that knee-jerk prayer. Anything, any price at all, to buy his old man a ticket back. He swallows. "It don't bother me. Last man to blow through that door wrecked all of our equipment. I haven't been able to cobble up enough scratch for a replacement yet." Her mouth slims. Even at 42, April Blanche-Simone is anyone's idea of handsome, statuesque and straight-backed, sandalwood skin lineless, save for where it pinches at the corners of her heavy-lashed eyes. Barely any makeup either, a faint tinting along lips and lids. Too many bills, not enough punters. An image from the train, a jigsaw of grinning mouths and curving horns massing in the dark, maggots packed into a soldier's wound. Awakens, along with a tick-tick-tick, as though of a stick being struck against the rim of a drum. Deacon shudders, the lingering pang of a headache migrating to his jaw, heavy as infection. It's fine. He closes his hand over hers, the back of it warm and rough and real. "I promise. You're a good one, Mr. James. And again, I'm so sorry about your pa. I remember when he played here. He could sing the dead back to life, that man. Although I think you can play the dead from their sleep. You two together? You'd have shook the heavens." April drapes a palm over his knuckles, a grin fitted in place. "I'll see about coaxing the crowd along, get those purse strings to loosen a little." "Mighty gracious of you, as always." Deacon finds a smile as he rises, the remainder of his beignet popped into his mouth, sugar and fried dough still warm from the pan. Funny how the worst thing about grief turned out to be someone else's sympathies, the way they cut through the stitching, drag out the hurt. But you take kindness when it's offered, no need to be ungrateful. Still chewing, he unshoulders his case and opens it with a flick-snap of locks. He extracts his saxophone from its bed of moth-bitten velvet, the lining dotted with pennies, a constellation of cheap change. "Taking your hat, by the way," April declares before he can move too far, snatching Deacon's fedora, cheap wool, some shade of highway grit, from his head and pressing a chaste kiss in its place. "Seems traditional, don't it?" Deacon only smiles. When he climbs the stage, his instrument a curve of sunlight against midnight skin, the room refuses to quiet, keeps churning at its meat and its drink, small city gossip floating like the smell of fresh ground coffee. "There we go." Deacon grins, honeyed and knowing, and settles on his rickety stool, saxophone over his lap. "Ladies and gentlemen, how are y'all doing? My name is Deacon James, and I'm your host for the evening. Due to circumstances," he sweeps the diner for April's eyes and holds up a smile just for her, "there will be no microphone or backup singers."
Just you and I.
So huddle close, you cats. I've got a few songs for you. Starting with Geeshie Wiley's Last Kind Words Blues. He runs through the scales, the notes shimmering gold. Someone answers in descending counterpoint. The bluesman looks up. The cello player tips their bow, and Deacon grins at the salute. Bit morbid, I know, but all life starts with death, don't it? In the dark and the green, the places that only the worms go. Let's all take a moment to reflect on that, on our place in this little planet. Deacon begins to play before anyone can say no, the air going crystalline with music, every note a sweet ache. And when he gets to the end, he doesn't stop. Instead, Deacon leads them down darker roads. Son House, Skip James, Blind Willie Johnson, moaning sweetly. All the old men who'd been bled of their fancies, whittled to bad dreams and worse habits, their music too sad for a country sick of trying. In between covers, he walks his audience along the dirt path that winds to his father's grave, where his mother stood weeping under the veil of a willow tree, filigreed in the light. He plays them the sound of breath hitching, a brave woman breaking, the thump of feet on earth as a man is carried to his final resting place. Hurt with no structure, raw as can be, a note plucked from a heart that doesn't know how it'll keep beating. And through it all, the cellist follows in adagio, their improvisations wood smoke and rich shadow. Slow, like the minute before you reach the casket, that nowhere place where you can still make believe the dead are just sleeping. 6 songs later, Deacon comes up for air amid a hush, the split between grief and give, no agony in his body, baptized by the blues. I know some of y'all are thinking, why does this brother got to play us something so sad? Because these are hard times, my friends, and every one of us is cradling some kind of hurt. But see, the thing about pain is this: you don't have to carry that burden alone. The blues, you see, is the music of the ache and the grind. The letter from the front saying your brother is dead. The smile that reminds you of that girl you lost when you were too young to know better. A ripple of sympathetic chuckles cast low. April wanders the crowd, murmuring into ears. Deacon's hat held out. Coins and bills gather in drifts. In that one dark corner, a figure halts their strumming, face turned up to Deacon like he's the dying sun. Blues, Deacon swallows around the words catching in his ribs, feeling them stick, all the goodbyes, all the things he'd left unsaid, a whole decade of should-have-beens and could-have-beens put aside for what? Blues is about wanting and not having, about putting that need into someone else's hands for a little while so you can pause and breathe. As he talks, his fingers court his saxophone, pure instinct, tracing its brass portraiture like the slope of a lover's hip. But the next song doesn't belong to it, no. Deacon slaps his palm against shining metal, a drowsing lugubre beat. Thunk, thunk, thunk. The next piece is special. I wrote it on the train here. And between him and his mother choking through badly rolled cigarettes, neither smokers, but both starved for numb, while alone behind a church, a half-emptied bottle of whiskey in grip, gaze on a star-lit heaven crueler than he'd remembered. Just for you. He shudders a dark eye. More laughter from the crowd, louder than before, a little giddy, a little guilty. But seriously, folks, the next piece I'm going to perform for you, it won't be like nothing else.
It ain't got room for a saxophone, for one, and you won't ever hear it on the radio. Partly because I'm a black man. Laughter again, slightly nervous. Partly because this tune is raw as very. The sound a heart makes when not even the grave will give it peace. Fair warning, I don't got no title for it yet, or an end figured out. But maybe we can figure out where it goes together. Deacon breathes in. What he breathes out is the lights. Shiver. Cold. Not the chill of the city without, fog-coiled and damp and reeking, but razor-cut sharp, like the coming of a blizzard, or maybe something worse, an emptiness on the hem of the universe. It seethes into his lungs, threaded with an oilier stench, viscera spread over black earth, a fortune written in its drape. And it is that the deacon sings, the ice and the drooling gore, the pus soaking into the soil as something rises from the tree line, teeth and tongue and groping tendrils. A whole language of sensations carried on words that grind his throat to blood. Like nothing he's heard, like nothing that should be heard. And it's wrong, wrong, Deacon thinks through a daze, the music twitching through him, stuttering, snickering. Outside, the street lamps blink wetly, but Deacon keeps singing, bass rasped down to a croak, and the audience keeps listening, still and quiet as bones in a pot. No kitchen breathes, no sizzle of meat on the grill or clatter of plates. No noise at all except for Deacon's voice, except for that very song pounding in his temples, pounding through the air, a shuddering thing like the earth itself is in labor. A burnt pork stench. Deacon shuts his eyes, the world red-lit against his lids, and shapes move, tectonic, against the black. He breathes. The windows are full, full, every inch of glass occupied by grinning faces. No eyes, no throat, no frame of bones. Only mouth and lips atop circles of smooth flesh, teeth perfectly straight, mosaicked together like scales on a pike. No words now, just sound and sinuous downbeat, an incomprehensible yodulation that goes beyond endurance. In the back of Deacon's mind, he thinks, I might be screaming. His eyes open. Every face in the diner is washed in light and bleached to the soapy gray transparency of a fish that'd been let to die, swimming through its own cloudy waste, round and round, belly bloated, gaseous. They're singing too, Deacon realizes, the thought slurred to a lisp as his voice falters and breaks. His song, but transposed to a higher register. And urgent, he thinks, head swimming, in a way that his rendition was not. Urgent and ravenous for something that stinks of dirt and depth and desire. The window opens, peels like rind into shavings of glass. Something tall and stilt-legged steps lithely through, its head bending through the ceiling. The sight of it, the head angled slightly, enameled horns ridged with strange growths, shatters his fugue. It's real, Deacon thinks, waking, the revelation freezing in his lungs. As the thing turns its regard toward the bluesman, Deacon gets up and runs. He trips, recovers, the slap of his shoes on the wooden floor the only sound. The music is gone again. Not forever, of course. No, he can feel the nub of it lodged in the base of his skull, a square inch of rounded pressure, gently purring, pleased. But the diner itself is silent, save for his footsteps and the click of its hooves, the panting harmony of its breath. Deacon makes a mistake then, curious as Orpheus and Lot's wife combined,
He slants a look over his shoulder and chews down a shriek. The patrons' faces, they're melting, slowly, chunkily, fat puddling in clavicles, warm yellow gunk, sinew dripping, reconnecting over eyes and noses, until only grinning mouths remain, the lips pulled so far back that every tooth goes on parade. One suddenly tosses its head like a heifer, hair expels in oily clumps. The scalp breaches, horns first straining against, and then audibly popping through the cup of its skin. And it turns. They all turn, every last one of them, down to a tow-headed infant, its cheeks cored of softness, an apple sucked dry of its meat. All
Deacon? Honey, are you back with us? What happened? Deacon sits up, palms on the wooden flooring, the surface gummy with a crust of spilled beer. The back of his skull is tender, but not excessively, a bruising no worse than any he'd been christened with. Where's my sax? Your instrument is on the table. I put it away first thing. You passed out. Got a nosebleed midway through your last song. You looked up like you'd seen a ghost, touched your face, and next thing anyone knew, you'd hit the ground. April daubs his upper lip with a washcloth, the fabric already clotting with red. Her forehead rucks. Was I out for long? I'm sorry if I was. Promises clog his throat, Deacon's face going hot as he rubs the grime and sugar from his fingertips. It had been a dream then, all of that. The grinning faces, dripping fat, the thing coming through the wall. Around him, the diner relaxes into welcome banality, cutlery scraping over crockery, harmonizing with the murmur of women talking, men grumbling, a slow undersong of kitchen work keeping time. A madrigal of ordinary, perfectly performed. No, it's fine. April unbends, one slender hand flapped, the other outstretched. They'll survive. How about you, though? You doing okay? Back of my head hurts. He clasps her forearm, Roman handshake style, and lets all sinewy 5'7" of the woman help haul him upright. As Deacon dusts the filth from his clothes, April grabs his hat from a table and shoves it forward, the crown sagging under a pebbling of coins. He takes the offering and flicks an indecorous look down. A generous haul. But I'm fine otherwise. You been eating enough, Deacon? April inspects him with a slight pucker to her mouth. She stalks a quick circuit around the bluesman, elbow gripped behind her back. When my grandma died, I couldn't even think about a slice of bread, let alone the effort of putting it into my mouth. Dead people have that way about them, you know. They get lonely. None of them ever mean it, but they've got a way of pulling us after them. I'm fine, April, I promise. I'm just... He considers his words, a platitude tottering in place, before at last compromising on something closer to honest. Tired, I guess. It's been a long ride. Didn't sleep well on the train. Did you ride the blind again? No, ma'am. He glances at a waitress as she shimmies past, slim-framed with dark, wavy hair, plates stacked high in both palms. A name tag is pinned to her ruffled shirt. Sasha, it says, in brass. Got a ticket all proper-like. Good. April halts, straightens, and slings her blood-mottled washcloth over her shoulder, stance held wide and martial. It's better than it used to be, especially up here in the north, but there are still white folk who like to pretend Roosevelt didn't say nothing. A strobing of memory, the cowboy's face in its many permutations. It ends with a vision of the man heaped on a corridor floor, arms snapped, broken off tips spongy with marrow. Amen to that. Anyway, April pivots on a flat-soled heel, a look sliding over her shoulder. Somewhere nearby, a man with a baritone roar booms for his check, while a child screams, high and thin. You're no good to me half dead like that. Maybe you should take the night off. No, I can play. The lie trips off his tongue, slightly too quick. You absolutely cannot. A pause between those last two syllables, tongue tip between her teeth. We both know that. Look, it's normal to be out of it. A half turn as April gestures, an angling of the wrist, palms swept up and crooked, one shoulder raised. No one's going to judge you, least of all me. If you need to take the night off, it's fine. Only been a couple of weeks. No one expects you to be back in one piece. April, I'm just trying to look out for you. She exhales, and Deacon breathes out in time, knowing that he's already lost, that he'll relent no matter what flimsy objections he invokes. I promised your father I would. You're not going to make a liar out of me, are you? Deacon sets his hat in place, brim tugged over the eyes to shelter their sorrow. He learned early that best interests are always about practicalities, rarely about what the heart wants or the soul needs. So he smiles and tries shakily for nonchalance. A bell clangs then. The door creaks open. Reflexively, Deacon glances toward the noise, and his heart stops in its count. It is the man from the train, dripping rain, a marbling of brown along his right sleeve. If Deacon didn't know better, well, he'd have assumed it was some careless splatter of an innocuous substance, sauce or chocolate. But the problem is, he does. April, you got a back way out of here by any chance? Deacon snatches his instrument case, thankfully adjacent, fighting to falsify some measure of apathy. He fails, of course, and how? A soul-sick vibrato threads through the tail of every word. His heart accelerated from 60 to 103, a gloss of sweat manifested on his brow. What's the matter? April shuttles a look between the two, too canny to miss the obvious. Despite her question, the woman doesn't hesitate, slapping an arm about Deacon's broader shoulders, ushering him forward. They pass Sasha, who April signals with a curling of two fingers. The girl decants from her roost at the bar. She smirks, pure moxie. Her arm bumps against Deacon's, and just for a second, the music in his head deepens, black earth and black waters. What have you done, Do? April's voice sotto voce, bringing him back from the bone-deep, bone-marrow beat. Deacon, are you in trouble? It's not like that. They steer around a table occupied by drunks and their bottles, one slumped over, a second arguing with himself, the third and fourth subsumed by cards. I'm not... He sighs. It's complicated. I promise I've done nothing criminal. That's why I'm scared for you. It's nothing to do with me and everything to do with him. Turn here. Into the kitchen now, the doors swinging shut behind them, and Deacon has just enough time to look back. The strangers lost his broken puppet jittering, his gait smoothed into something predatory, a hunch-shouldered stalk, like a hunting dog on the scent. Tell me what's going on. No time. Deacon peels from April's grasp, adjusting the strap of his instrument case so it sits diagonal across his spine, breath coming in spikes. Look, I promise I'll tell you, but not right now. I have to go, April. Trust me. He won't cause no problems in the diner. Deacon warning fletches the second syllable. Trust me. April sighs and aims a finger between the kitchen stations. Steam plumes from cast iron pots, aromatic with spice and fat, clumping in gobbets along the ceiling. Two men, one Hispanic and lean, one too sunburnt to tell, drift between, alternating between hobtops and ovens, first inspecting the stews and the chilies, then laving buttermilk mixtures into pans. A door stands beside a rack of spices, the rot-eaten shelving bent under a cabal of bottles and rust-spotted tins. Out there, take a right for a shortcut toward the pictures. Watch something. Let the trail cool. Thank you, ma'am. Deacon is already backing away through the cardboard boxes stacked across the floor, palms layered over his heart. Deacon? Yeah? Be careful. Outside in the alley, the city reeks of coal and excrement, fumes weeping from the sewers, warm and wet even in the chill. Horse-drawn carriages clop through the streets, dragging a stink of animal musk. Under the slumping eaves of an adjacent building, a woman ignites her cigarette, illuminating a sharp jaw, a sharper haircut. A baby warbles, unseen on the second story, its mother's liquid voice swaying in lullaby. It's beautiful, the song. The words aren't anything that Deacon recognizes, though. No consonants, one vowel warping into the next, whale song parsed by a human throat. The bluesman doesn't think too long on it. He's got places to be. So he tugs his coat closer, collar flipped up, before slinking toward the exit. A shadow laps across the mouth of the alley, a tongue of ink, and Deacon hesitates, breath held, until the silhouette bisects into two sailors, an underbite hanging from each. They wobble past, arm in arm, singing about the woman they'd left in the deep, a girl with cold skin, eyes like the dying moon. Again, there's something about the cadence, the rhythm that they've set, Something familiar, but Deacon doesn't have time to waste. They walk on. Deacon waits until they've turned a corner before he emerges, footsteps keeping time with a newsboy's entreaty to buy yesterday's papers. A quick left-right glance, no sign of pursuit. He follows the side street toward a polyping of neon, the local cinema tumescent with billboards and bulbs, advertising attractions from this year, the next, the last. There's a crowd outside, clustered around a cart, the smell of caramel and roasted chestnuts wafting from under a candy-striped roof. Deacon wades into the milieu, uneasy, past bare-armed women, their blue-white skin nearly fluorescent. One smiles at him, and he ducks his head, wary of the attention. "Will you be my escort for the evening?" A voice behind his shoulder, female and lyrical, fingers stroking the inch of flesh between his glove and his sleeve. "No, ma'am, I'm sorry." Laughter walks him to the ticket counter where a man stands, posture immaculate. A red fez dangles its gold-tufted rope like a scar over his eyebrow. He smiles. "Evening, sir. Evening." Deacon looks about, unsettled. There are no indications of where he should line up. Which stairwell leads to which shabby balcony? Which concession stand will sell popcorn to someone like him? "I would like to buy a ticket." He invests the word with a thimble's worth of doubt. All around him, white faces, white skin. The man doesn't hesitate. His smile does not alter, billboard perfect. "Which movie, sir?" Deacon studies the posters, every face and stretch of flesh painted pale. "Whatever you have tickets for." The man quotes an unremarkable price, and Deacon counts out the appropriate change before faltering. "I don't see an entrance." "The door's right over there, sir." "Yes, but—" Deacon doesn't say it, won't say it, nauseous with the idea of putting voice to a multi-generational humiliation, suspicion thumping like a second heart. He has to know what Deacon is talking about. The writing is on the Constitution, after all. A frown tethers the man's brows together, drags his mouth down. Impatience flickers across his movie star countenance. White teeth, white skin, pomaded, slicked back hair so blonde it might as well be white too. "We only have one entrance, sir." Still not what Deacon is alluding to, but he decides not to push it, not with the way the man hisses, "sir." It's like he's pronouncing a different word, really, a word they both know, upper lip transposed into a sneer. "And you want me to use it?" "Yes. Now, next please." The smile never breaks, but the man's eyes lift over Deacon's hat, purposefully abstracted. The word "next" knifing through the ambient chatter, loud enough to turn heads. Deacon swallows, counts down from 10, a fist balled in his pocket. "Thanks." Turns, leaves. It isn't a movie that Deacon has seen. Not that he's watched particularly many, but he recognizes its pivotal conceits, having witnessed their countless incarnations played out over radio and gospel, lyric and prose. It is war as it never was, sanitized and romanticized, its roster of rogues only very slightly, sweetly, sympathetically broken. America, swaggering up with a breast full of medals, gleaming in the sun. Even when its young men bleed, they bleed gold and purple stars. Deacon sinks deeper into his seat, instrument case between his knees. The monochrome palette of the film is softly luminescent, washing out imperfections, the stars black, white, supple gradients of gray. But never actually black per se. Every larger-than-life figure is certifiably Caucasian, from the mustachioed hero to bit player number 12. Deacon's mouth twists under the brim of his hat, pulled low again. Under different circumstances, he might have commented, but these are unusual times, the strangest he's lived in. Still, the flickering mercury dimness does what he'd hoped it would, anonymizing him, one face among 100. If he's slightly slower to laugh than everyone else, slower to appreciate the post-conflict fantasy, all its practicalities sliced off, no one seems to notice. The crowd is transfixed, their faces anointed with a radioactive pallor. On screen, Gregory Peck spins a woman into his arms. A light blinks on along the right wall. Deacon glances sidelong and catches a glimpse of the usher, a pert brunette in the traditional garb, vermilion fabric, a ladder of brass buttons descending the front, sleeves and collar black. And beside her, the man from the train sniffs the air before putting on a smile wide enough for Deacon to see. Cold snakes down the bluesman's spine as the usher directs her torch at the aisle in front of his own. The man follows the bobbing jag of light to his appointed seat, nearly swaggering, no fear of inconveniencing his captive peers. He sits, and Deacon expels the breath he didn't even know he was holding, sliding lower, lower, fingers running circles along the strap of his case, the nylon rough beneath his touch. Had the man tracked him here? Did he know? The serendipity of their proximity couldn't have been intentional, could it? Yes, Deacon decides, throat dry, tongue thick. Yes, it absolutely could. The only black man in the very building. He wouldn't be hard to find at all. But still, why sit there instead of a seat across, where all he'd have to do is stretch, and he'd be able to curl fingers into Deacon's collar, the latter pinned by circumstances, unable to move without colliding with another? Was he really with Deacon? Maybe. The bluesman eyes his adversary, sizing him up. From the back, he's indistinguishable from the next man, save for the fact that he'd chosen to retain his hat, the crest of the trilby gashing across Peck's throat. His posture is relaxed, his manner is unhurried. He could simply be here for the pictures. He could. But a dog doesn't need to hurry when he's got the hare in a ditch. He has time to wait. The man has time to wait. And Deacon, he breathes. Scared, shallow gasps. With a throb of effort, he elongates the gap between intake and outflow, enumerating the intermediary seconds. 1, 3, 5, 6. Exhale and repeat. Slowly, he cultivates serenity, or some slapdash copy, close enough to real that it lets him pretend it's all okay. Deacon slides his instrument case onto the floor lengthwise, considers his options. First one, run. Get out of his chair and get going, quickly but discreetly. Evacuate the theater before the man realizes Deacon is here. But that plan means subscribing to the notion that this was all circumstantial, a mistake Deacon doesn't think he can make. Second one, stay. The gloam might be sufficient to prevent the man from recognizing him. If he keeps his head down, if he keeps his profile small, perhaps it'll be enough to scrub him from the fourth round. After all, Deacon's neither well-dressed nor white, his hand-me-down suit unremarkable except for the cravat, brass stitching on glimmering brown. On screen, a blonde with corkscrew curls slaps a brunette of approximate stature, a choreographed rivalry. Gregory Peck stands nearby, a cigarette between his teeth, waiting for the winner. Except that Deacon can't tell anymore if that's the right actor, one of the hallmarks of Hollywood handsomeness being interchangeability, every actor a vehicle. It could be Bogart, or even a rejuvenated Gable made massive on the silver screen, not that any of it matters. Now, the music in his head is awake. Now, it thumps and shakes. Feverish halftime beats scored by nonsensical arpeggios, jackhammering for attention. Now, his skull pulses until his teeth rattle.
Now, it hurts. He breathes. Option 2, Deacon concludes, jaw clenched. Hell. Wait out the movie, one eye on his pursuer. The man himself barely moving, hardly breathing, a puppet emancipated. On screen, someone, Bogart or Gable or Peck, whichever white man that is, growls to the camera. "I've got all the time in the world, champ." And just for a second, he sounds like someone else. When the movie finishes, the words, "The End," printed in block letters over the Holocaust of Hiroshima, Deacon rises with the first wave of moviegoers. The distracted, the disinterested, the disgusted. The man from the train does not move, has not moved since he first sat down, neither slack nor at attention, but simply there. As Deacon moves away, popcorn and cardboard cups crunching beneath his stride, he glances backward, afflicted by a sudden paroxysm of curiosity. If he walked around to the front, what would he find? Wooden flesh, ceramic eyes, stigmata bored through the wrists,
holes just large enough for a thin rope to pass through, an articulated mandible like the ones you'd find slotted into a ventriloquist's dummy. Somehow, the absurdity of it terrifies him. The crowd sews together around Deacon, obstructing his view. He breathes. The air smells of cologne, salt tang, frangipani and fruit distilled into women's perfume. Something subtly rotten, too, a miasma that makes him think of the docks, the sea. Someone laughs, shrill, closer than Deacon thought they'd be, and he jumps. He breathes. The throng clears as he hits the exit, and he looks over a shoulder, finds empty space where the man had been sitting. Gone now, but where exactly? Someone shoulders into Deacon, propelling him forward. He staggers, slips, recovers in time to raise his head and make eye contact with the most beautiful woman he's ever encountered. A woman so pale and translucent she might as well be a blown glass sculpture. Veins blue beneath her skin, her eyes immense and black. She smiles at him, and he... Better watch it, cream puff. Dames like her love a busted flush. She'd eat your soul. The man from the train, 2 inches from Deacon's ear. He spins to see nothing. You keep running from me, Deacon James, but we're working the same side of the street. I'm not your enemy. In fact, I think I might be the only friend you've got. The voice again, transatlantic crisp, now to Deacon's right. He's toying with you, whispers the music, unmistakably irate, as though it too loathes the machinations of their opponent. Heat frissons, edged with rage. Give us a little something, it seems to say. A pound of flesh carved from your soul, and maybe, an arrangement could be made. Deacon blinks. That thought made no sense. Keep running, and it's going to be worse for all of us. Breathes. Still no line of vision, only the man's voice, coming in from every direction. The crowd takes no notice, drifting on, carrying Deacon in its eddies. Above, the aphotic sky lies empty. Who are you? My name is John Persons. I'm the only person that knows how you're going to get out of this alive. Are you threatening me? Depends, really. The muzzle of a gun squares itself against Deacon's head, cold as the devil's bed. Now me, I like to minimize bloodshed. But sometimes you gotta wring a few necks to get what you want, and I am not against the concept of a Harlem sunset. Are you going to cooperate? The thing about pacifism is this: it is learned, not inherited. Some people's answer to a broken glass universe, full of bad, full of men and women who won't think twice about suturing together a future from the corpses of those they see as lesser. It is a conscious decision, an active choice to stay kind. But everyone has their limits, and Deacon, winnowed to nothing, frightened, compromised, and starved for normal, no more than the raw-nerved impulse to stay alive, less now than animal, just fear and a kind of tired rage, he breathes, snaps. A rippling of his shoulder as he swings the instrument case. The bag goes up, comes down on Person's head with a crack. The pistol flies from Person's hand, spinning, grip over barrel into the crowd, which still hasn't paid any attention, still hasn't said a word about the armed confrontation, because of course they really wouldn't. Person stumbles, surprise sleeting across his face, and Deacon raises his makeshift cudgel again and brings it down, twice, 3 times, each time with a hideous snap or a crunch when the case impacts cartilage, joint sliding out of position. Later, it will dawn on Deacon how suicidally stupid this all was, but not yet. Persons collapses, and Deacon stares at his handiwork, chest heaving, horrified at what he's done, the other man's body down on the cobblestones. His face, "I'm sorry," Deacon mumbles. And the song in his head is a vibrant hosanna, holy, holy unto the nothing. A sound refracted in the crush of milling bodies, their gauzy laughter like a chorus, all singing, "Ooh, hours." Arkham swallows Deacon as he pounds the cobblestones. Its air clearer now, the factory's quiet. No constellations perforate the abyss overhead, a blackness unyielding. Even the moon is just a hole cut into the ink of the sky, a stub of white bone. Street lamps and shut doors turn the city into a single unending street, every pathway identical, every alley indistinguishable from the next. But Deacon knows exactly where he's headed, the train station. He's had enough. He's done with this place. It takes 15 minutes, slightly less, before the edifice looms into view. A poorly lit head house overseeing 2 platforms and a train shed like a mouth in the gloom. Deacon slows as he approaches its borders, wincing, legs jellied from the exertion. The possibility that this might be a bad idea suckles at Deacon's attention, but he puts it aside, the last 24 hours having wrung him of anything but the compulsion to leave. Hobbling, a muscle seizing in his left leg, the man inches up to the station building. Its doors open despite the absence of interior lighting. "Hello?" A flame wicks to life in the penumbra. "Don't mean to be any trouble, but I was wondering if you could tell me when the first train out of Arkham might be." Deacon grimaces at the sound of his own voice, the lower registers shaved to waist, breath fogging. No response. The light begins to pendulum, occasionally washing across the outline of a figure. The inside of the station is curiously empty of amenities. There are signs that go nowhere, bricked-up walls where lavatories or ticket counters should be, alcoves scalloped into the masonry, as though someone had thought about putting something there, only to change their mind. No benches, no stalls where commuters might buy a pastry, no newspaper huts, only a vastness of marble flooring and steel-wrought ribs jutting into the roof. No glass either, Deacon observes, conscious of his breathing and the clack of his shoes, both too loud in this empty space. Nothing that might capture a reflection, only glossy surfaces, enforcing the claustrophobic ambiance, a mausoleum reappropriated for use in public transportation. Another hello wells on his tongue. He keeps it there. The distant glow continues to bob, each swing barely illuminating a second presence. 2 things occur to Deacon then. He should be able to see the station's other occupant, and it should be more than shadows twisting on the walls, silhouettes without source. The second is that whatever it is coming closer. Deacon backpedals toward the entrance, the hairs on the back of his neck tufted, and something in the air slides sidelong, the slightest twitch, like a leg maneuvered out of position. Reality dithers, gives way, a deviation so minor that Deacon blinks and misses it. But he doesn't miss what comes after. Not the fact that he's suddenly standing at the center of the station, the roof arching above, its carbon black sternum tattooed with murals, or the presence hunched over his shoulder, watching him, waiting.
The light ceases its metronoming. Deacon moves his eyes up to the opposite wall, his silhouette a stark cutout in the glare. Behind him, just as he'd expected, a second figure. It is a thing of hairs and wafting cartilage, 3 times as tall as Deacon, and bent over so far that its muzzle spines and villi, no muscle or bone or skin in sight, almost brushes the top of his head. Waiting. For Deacon to look up, maybe, to run, to acknowledge its existence, to begin whatever needs to be begun. So Deacon does none of that. He stands, one hand balanced over his instrument case, armpits sweat-soaked despite the dry chill. The music itches behind his eye sockets, teasing almost, as though asking, "What are you going to do now?" It tendrils down to his tongue, where it congeals, a simple 3-measure phrase, easy as can be. All at once, Deacon is certain that a transaction is being extended. Worship for salvation, the oldest bargain. One sweet note and the horror ends. Deacon rolls a shoulder, the joint giving out a low and satisfying pop, and shutters his eyes, both hands gripped around his case. Well, really that, he thinks. He's done hawking his soul. Before he can take a swing, a voice pours into the hush, silver, sweet. A coloratura murmurs a memory of an afternoon hazy with flies, the sky raw and blue. He'd been standing on a barge, sweat purling under his collar, as the white folk in their finery discussed the differences between the blues and Italian opera, the uncouthness of one and the highbrow resplendence of the other. How their one coloratura, a high-cheeked child of 12, powdered to look legal, was worth 10 backwater bluesmen. Deacon hadn't minded too much. They'd paid what they owed. But he wouldn't forget that searing day, and he wouldn't forget the sound of the girl, ethereal and soaring, chasing the complexities of her assigned aria like a starling at play. This voice is purer still. A girl minces into the light, singing words that the world hasn't learned, a line of blood tracing a route from her eye. Her hair is a torrential halo around a face too grim to have ever been beautiful, all its softness long chewed away. There is only bone left. Bone and hard-set lips and dark, determined eyes. The face of someone bartered at the crossroads, come back to find out what she was worth. She spreads her arms as she approaches, her song glissading to an impossible pitch, then held there with a defiant vibrato, her expression ferocious. As Deacon watches, the girl balls both hands into fists. Reality shimmers like heat rising from a highway, and cracks, tributaries opening, multiplying, a veining of fissures that spreads and spreads until the air resembles a pane of shattered glass. A breath, a change in pitch, and it all implodes, the nightmare thing sucked through a pinhole in the universe. Gosh. She sighs and hits the floor. The crunch of bone on marble startles Deacon into motion. He rushes forward, instrument case banging against his spine, sinks to a knee and scoops her into his arms. She's lighter than Deacon had anticipated, frighteningly so, bird-bodied under the drape of her military jacket, the sleeves too long. An older brother's leaving, or a lover's discard. I've got you. He strokes her forehead, her skin burning hot under his palm. He knows her, somehow. He does. He does. Her name is cut into the meat of his tongue. Yet why can't he remember? I've got you. Her eyes flutter apart. The sclera are soaked through with blood. But the smile, despite her exhaustion, is triumphant, teeth flashing white against waxy copper skin. I'm guessing that means I got him then. Deacon chokes out a laugh. He can feel her vertebrae in the cup of his hand, can feel every small bone. Yeah, you did. My name is Deacon James, and I think I might owe you a debt of gratitude. Anna. A pained gasp. Just Anna? Deacon adjusts his grip, trying not to linger on her weightlessness, an arm going under her knees. Someone starved her. Someone hurt her. Kept her boxed somewhere lightless until her skin sallowed and sickened. If she'd been let under the sun, her flesh might have warmed to some color between his and April's, burnt umber and glowing. Deacon counts to 3 and gets back onto his feet, careful not to jostle the girl, her arm trailing from his grasp. Careful not to think about the how of bleaching fat from the body like that, the way you'd have to ignore the rattle-thump of small fists on a locked door, the way you would need to be okay with someone dying by degrees. Is it short for anything? Anastasia? Annalie? It's a mighty pretty name, no matter how you cut it. Short and easy. Rhymes with all kinds of things. You talk to the wounded. That's what they told him, the war heroes, the sad singing men with eyes too old for their heads. You keep them conscious. You keep them focused, keep them curious enough about the present that they don't slip into past tense. You talk to dying men, too, like his father, eaten up from the inside by whatever had festered in his lungs, his roaring baritone watered down to a warble. Just Anna. No family name? How it works, of course, Deacon has no idea. Something about shock. Something about keeping on top of the patient's condition. Something about reminding them that, yes, there's someone here who loves you, so for God's sake, please don't go. He hooks his fingers around hers and searches the building for exits. Nothing but featureless wall and the cold growing worse by the heartbeat. Just Anna. a bark of a laugh that leaves her shivering, the curl of her small mouth damp with blood. "We need to go." "Just Anna." "Uh-huh, I see. Well, it's good to make your acquaintance, Just Anna." His voice tightens around the joke, breath pluming into clouds. The girl couldn't be more than 90 pounds, 100 at best, much too small for her frame. "Well, we'll be out of here as soon as I can find an exit. We have to go now." Deacon scans the interior again. There's no way out. No way out. The words thud in the air, echoing where none have before, refracted into something antembral and ghostly. It strikes Deacon that the head house itself might be mocking him. Revenge, perhaps, for the loss of its guardian, or whatever it was that Anna banished with her incandescent song. No way out. The words are whispered again, this time by the bricks and the bones of the station. "Get us out," Anna says, moans a voice, not voice inside his head, syrupy as love's first kiss. The longing clamors in his lungs, pressing down on rib and diaphragm until his mouth is bloody with want. And even though he aches for it, like a priest without religion or a house without a child, he won't. "I can't." Anna knots her fingers into his coat and pulls herself up with an effort. "It's going to come back. I won't let anything happen to you." Deacon says it with more conviction than he thought he carried in his lungs, the words coming in a rush. He's compromised on so much in his life, but not this, not even if it kills him. The girl blinks once. She laughs, a feeble noise, air gurgled out of lungs that barely function. All that power from before, gone. It'd eat you alive. Her timbre is matter-of-fact, not unkind, no accusation at all. If it can bleed, it can't. None of them bleed. They barely exist. There's a drowning look in her eyes when she says this, the conviction of the dying, and also an adolescent impatience, half exasperated. Her lips press into a line. "When it comes back, it's going to be angry. You need to get us out. Need to get us out right now, please." The song screams back, sloughing notes, sloughing sense. A slit dilates in the wall, like a wound carved through someone's belly, the corners flapping outward, billowing, the stones suddenly membranous, and Deacon can almost hear the damp flick of it. The night slops in, its breeze salt-silvered and sharp. And propped against the masonry, a cigarette drooping from his smirk, is Persons. "The way I see it, you've got two choices.
1. You and the bird stay put and take a flutter at convincing the bulls you weren't trespassing." Persons extracts his revolver from a coat and sits the gun at his hip, his smile a sickle of white tooth. "Lamb out of here and finally have that chat. What are you?" Persons' smile is all teeth, an incisor chipped where the bluesman struck him. "Kid, you don't want to know." Deacon doesn't reply, not yet. His vision has contracted to a single point of clarity. The pressure on his sinuses devolving the universe into white noise, white flashes of agony that pop each time his heart goes thump. Unlike every single time before, the song hasn't gone away, or at least not the substance of it. Melody and rhythm long excised so that only afterimage remains, like the glare of the sun cooked into his brain. The bluesman pinches the bridge of his nose, trying not to linger on the television static screal of his migraine. Anna's fingers laced up tight with his. They'd moved somewhere. A dusty office with the words "John Persons, P.I." chiseled on the frosted glass door. Every corner of the room piled with boxes, brown manila folders gravid with dog-eared documents. The sofa that Anna occupies has seen better years, her pillow concaved, its hems gnawed to threads, better decades. Inexplicably, the duvet is new and slightly plasticky, printed with astronautical fancies, rockets and stars on sapphire fabric. A 10-year-old's affectation, except there is no child in sight. "Got any food?"
Deacon asks at last. Afraid not. Deacon nods, wincing at the migraine bracketed by his temples. Even the act of swallowing a torment. Anna shifts under her coverings, a skinny scrap of skin barely tethered to its bones. Looking at her now, no one could be faulted for thinking her an ordinary runaway, a child and nothing more. Not a voice that can move worlds and jostle the firmament with a single thunderous word. Deacon, he thumbs a bony cheek. Shh. She sighs into his palm, and Deacon thinks again, stomach lurching. A child, just a child. Anna couldn't be more than 15, 17 at the oldest. Nowhere near old enough for half the gosh she's lived. Strangely, though, what chews into Deacon is the thought of her desolation. How she must have been so terribly, inarticulably alone, screaming herself hoarse, nails scraped to stubs. How long can you keep a body alive without food? How long can it endure without drink? Forever. The music spasms, and all of a sudden, Deacon knows, his head crammed full of images, nodules untangling from the crenellations of her brain, lengthening like shoots, flowering. Sometimes it is the child who sustains the parent. He disentangles his fingers from hers, closes his palm around hers, sick again with aching. The visions etiolatate, a damask of ghosts. Her skin beneath his is clammy, cold, the texture not unlike meat fresh from the fridge. Got any water instead? A grunt of acknowledgement, and the sound of a tap being turned, gears squeaking, knife on chalkboard. Here. Thanks. Deacon holds the plastic cup to Anna's lips. The three silent, the room quiet, save for the plumbing resettling, rattling through papier-mâché walls. It is only when Anna has drained the cup that Deacon speaks again, each word measured and decanted with care. So, what do you need from me exactly? Persons props an elbow on a stack of old books, their covers red leather. He lights a cigarette. A scent of cloves, mingling with the smell of paper and gunpowder, wood rot and tin. I need you to park your body for 20 minutes. That's all. And then? Then you walk out. Just like that? Just like that. What about Anna? Same deal for her. There has to be a catch. No catch. Smoke billows. 20 minutes. That's all it'll take, if nothing goes wrong, that is. Deacon bobs his head, no stranger to what-ifs. Had persons offered Deacon a problem-free transaction, the bluesman would have recoiled. Everything has risks. A dribble of blood squeezes from Anna's tear duct. Deacon mops the trail with his sleeve, an automatic motion. Before he can reply, "You drink scotch?" "Yeah." Person circles around his desk, cigarette between his teeth, and gropes through his desk. A clink of glasses as he fishes out 2 tumblers and a bulge-necked flask, the glass clear as the fluid within. That actual white mule? Sure is. Green label stuff right here. Got it from Connie's Inn down in New York before they closed shop. He pours out 2 servings, almost to the brim. The air colors with it, Prohibition-era moonshine, straight from Deacon's teens. Persons extends a glass expectantly, alcohol slopping over the lip, and the bluesman rises to claim his measure. A sip. It burns just like he remembers. So, what's the deal? On the train, you told me that there was something, Deacon hesitates, growing in my head? A seed, yes. He taps ash from his cigarette, his smile white and whole. Just like her? Anna. Deacon glances back at her. What? No, wait, you know what? Take it from the top, real slow. What the gosh is going on here? It isn't complicated. Persons drains his glass in a single draft, transferring cigarette from teeth to fingertips and back, smoke rising in snake coils. Think of your situation like a kind of sickness. How do you catch any disease? Random chance.
Sure, there are things that facilitate that. Coming in contact with a drip who's ill, exchanging bodily fluids. But by and large, bacteria doesn't care about you. It's nothing personal. It's about breeding. Deacon takes another gulp of his drink, nearly drowning in its blaze. You're saying you were standing in the wrong place at the wrong time, I imagine. Or, more likely, his eyes glide to where Deacon's case lies beside Anna's silent frame. You made yourself susceptible to contagion. I gather this isn't something we can wait out. No. But that isn't important. Person stubs out the remnants of his cigarette, the flame burnt to the filter, and raises a hand. Behind the man, his shadow festers into villi, crawling up the walls and onto the ceiling, fistulas dilating into mouths, spreading like a plague. 20 minutes, and we all get what we want. And what do you get? Get away from him, Anna's voice cuts in. Deacon turns to see her rising, duvet hissing onto the floor. Blood runs from the corners of her eyes, like warnings scratched across sunken cheeks. She's terrifying in the dimness, a scrawl of brushstrokes like some nightmare creature, her gaze black from blood and something worse. Don't start, sister. I said get away from him. I'm just here to help, Tooths. No need to get riled. Despite his tone, Persons is already prowling forward, fluid. A hand slips beneath his coat. Don't patronize me. The word don't detonates in silver-voiced coercion, lustrous, the E-string on a violin, every version of its meaning shimmering over the men, courting them in a compulsion to halt, to listen. Even the shadows pause, hungry with waiting. I know what you are. And I could send you away. A corner of her lips twitches up, an eye tooth bared. You know I can. You were at the diner, weren't you? The smile on Person's face is dangerous. You were the one with the cello. I get it now. I see what's going on. Don't hurt her, Deacon manages, desperate, starting from his spot. His exhortation draws a laugh from Persons, the sound maddened, as he slopes an incredulous look at the bluesman. You're either ignorant or stupid, I can't tell which. Not sure if you noticed, but the Wren's the one threatening me. And before you start telling me she's just a dame, you should know she's a bit further along the process than you are, which means That's enough. We're done. We're leaving. And you're not going to stop us. Anna tilts her head to one side, one clockwork jerk. When she speaks again, it's half a song, voice pitched supple and searing, 3 keys higher, except for when she drops it, just for a beat, to snarl. By the way, Mr. Persons, she says she remembers you. The world goes white. Reality doesn't break this time. Instead, it turns boneless, creamy.
Like someone dug under the flesh and extracted all the calcium, flayed the skin, spun the collagen and meat into spools of taffy. Now thick and tractable, it is tugged by its unseen confectioner into its appointed place, the universe rearranging to the intermezzo of Anna's clarion voice. But that is what it feels like. What Deacon sees is more difficult to explain, his vision clacking through frames, like a movie played too slowly to trick the mind. 2 worlds again, one superimposed over another, alternating back, forth, back, forth. Person's mouth going round with a scream, his hand outstretched. Trees crowded thick as sins. Branches raking at Deacon's cheeks, his ankles sunk into cool mud. Noise cuts in. A flutter of binaural entropy, no rhythm or purpose, bombards Deacon from every side. Before he can react, the sound, not Anna, not remotely close, guttural and off-key, as far from music as such things come, works its teeth into him and pulls.
The world tumbles vertiginously sideways, color and sound bleeding together into one mess of muddy browns, like a child's paints finger-smeared across the wall. It stops as quickly as it begins, the magic winking out, jarring in its exit. And Deacon blinks and opens his eyes. To nothing. No, not nothing. True, it is only a featureless murk at first glance, as though Deacon had been plunged into the nadir of perdition. But as his eyes adjust, the landscape reveals itself to be teeming with nuance, the minutiae of which Deacon decides are more disquieting than the whole. Something is wrong here. Yet, if someone were to ask Deacon to explain why he felt so uneasy, he'd be hard-pressed to inventory the reasons. The flatness of the light, maybe, the way it renders the terrain into cartoonish binaries, black or white, no shade in between. The roots, perhaps, knotted and tendon-thick, and how they sometimes come together to resemble arms outstretched, an old man begging for salvation, or muscle unstitched over the earth. Or is it the wind, the not-quite words exhaled by the dry dead leaves, the way it seems to sigh his name? He looks up. No, none of that. It's the heavens that are wrong. It is the moon and the myriad stars glaring down, each celestial orb bisected by a black pupil and filmed with gray, like 1,000 cataracted eyes. The stars, Anna. The words are wheezed out, a hoarse whisper, because any other volume feels dangerous right now. Mary, Joseph, what happened to the stars? It's okay. Reassuring noises, crooned legato, Anna closing in on Deacon with both hands up and beseeching. It's okay. Where are we, Anna? The reversal of roles isn't lost on Deacon, and he barks a wretched laugh. A ponderous, slow swinging beat shifts into place, his head spasming in tandem. She shrugs hopelessly. Here, for all of its monosyllabic simplicity, proves weirdly sufficient, neatly encompassing both the breadth and the abnormality of their surroundings. A breeze sighs. It's like someone told a lunatic to build this nowhere place out of his gibberings, the bits and pieces of normal he keeps threaded between his ribs. Deacon runs anxious fingers over his skull and finds the skin tender, swollen, soft. His head aches, a pressure mounts behind his eye, throbbing. "Are you all right?" he says, quiet, already extending a hand, recalling that first triumphant conflict and the subsequent fall. "I wanted to get us away," murmurs, her gaze hunting something in the tree line, a flickering contingent of bayonet flashes patrolling the rim of sight. It takes 1, 2 beats before she realizes what he's asking and smiles, rueful, thumbing at the blood beneath her eyes. "I'm fine, but that might not be the case for long if we don't get out of here. We need to go. Now." How? A part of Deacon rankles at his own passiveness, the sheer unmanliness of it all. Shouldn't he be the mouthpiece of authority, the one to take control? Memory populates itself with sneering faces, wine-cheeked characters extolling the division between man and woman, clicking their teeth, full of scorn for anyone who'd bow his head so meekly to a girl. But as quickly as it arrives, that unfortunate conceit is doused. Deacon has never been one to garland himself with someone else's insecurities, and he's not about to start now. "I'm not sure, but I'll figure it out. Now, let's move. We need to," a faltering of her voice, "we need to be somewhere that isn't here." Her small fingers clasp his and tug. He relents, weaving into lockstep behind the girl, their gaits matched, hers surer, his more hesitant. Before long. "You were at the diner?" "Yes." "You saved me?" "Yes." "And that man?" "Persons. What was he talking about?" A tick. "I don't think you want to." "I do. Trust me. I'm tired of being in the dark." The forest does not alter, no matter the distance they pace, and soon Deacon becomes convinced that if he were to look over his shoulder,
he'd see himself sighting down the back of his own head. Okay, then, Anna sighs, shoulders scissoring back. Her tongue protrudes between chipped and yellowed teeth, the barest tip, and is held there for a second before she expunges another breath of air, more gustily than before. It's simple. I can end the world, and I'm going to. Why? If I had a choice, I wouldn't end all of it. I'd keep parts. I'd incinerate the ones that want to see the plantations full of black bodies again. The ones that expect us to say, yes, sir, and no, ma'am, and bow and scrape to them, their children and their children's children. The ones who look at us and wonder if we're human or some species of ape. Her mouth twists. I want those gone. But this deal of ours, it's all or nothing. Her grief is a bullet in the hollow of Deacon's throat, the taste of lead under his tongue. For the first time, he thinks, maybe this wouldn't be such a terrible idea, to gather these folk like sheaves of corn, tie them with twine, and there's nothing for us here, she whispers, disrupting his musings. This world, she's shown me, all the timelines, all the separate outcomes, all the pain, Deacon, you have no idea. I've seen what's coming. So, I figured, maybe none of this is worth keeping. Look. Her touch transmits a cavalcade of images, of dead and dying men, women, children, girls forgotten in trash bags, throats finger-marked. They'd been screaming for days. Teenage boys gunned down by men in uniform. Politicians murdered. An apartment gutted by laughing white teens, its windows shattered by fire and stone. So much death, and all for what? Because they couldn't deal with treating all people like equals? Because I want it all gone. There's no point to this. Can we do that? We, not you, not she. We, this time. A counter-melody of disembodied pleasure travels up his spine, like a woman's taloned caress. Like this, Deacon? It teases. Is that how the mighty falls at last? Anna doesn't hesitate. Yes. If we let her through the door, she'll tear creation down. And nothing. There will be nothing. We'll be gone. Maybe she'll keep some of us, but, well, you've seen her dreams. Yes, the word slithers loose. But do you think that's right? Dooming all those futures? Don't you think there'd be a time when... When, Deacon James? The silence seems to leer, chortling, confident in his corruption. Mine now, hisses the breeze. Mine, hisses this world and its staring eyes. All of this will be someone else's bad dream? You saw. I showed you. Yes. And I saw people fighting, too. Isn't that worth something? All those voices raised, all that courage. It can't have come from nowhere. It has to be built on something. Don't you think it's worth finding out what that could be? Anna halts. Do you? He thinks about it. With all my heart. The smile that he surprises from Anna is a little embarrassed, a little childlike, but mostly beatific. A dawn sieved from the fog, audaciously incandescent, like a vow that good things will come one day.
Before she can articulate a companion statement to that expression, however, a spoiled meat sweetness insinuates itself into the air. Then, the trees splinter into gracile limbs, a sheathing of membrane. They slowly disentangle, cohering into distinct bodies, each torso adorned with a multitude of legs and horns, drooling ink and nothingness. They grin blankly, the moonlight illuminating blunt molars. The things cluster closer, a prison of limbs. One leans down, and Deacon sees himself reflected in its wet sinew. The song washes in again, piping and slightly petulant, but still willing to make peace if Deacon will embrace it. And he says yes as the thing splits its mouth, yes as it comes for him. Yes, if you give me this, Deacon thinks, shutting his eyes as the song claims him, orchestral pleasure. Then the earth shifts, and time stops, and reality rests itself into Deacon's palm, bright burning power that he knows will eat him alive one day soon, but not today. Today, it's his. Run, he tells Anna in the voice of the rails, the engine roar, the howl, the chatter of the audience, the percussion of feet on wood, the honey wine strut of big city jazz and the booming cabaret, the desolate coyote ache of the blues. All of the voices of a rambler who's seen more grief than good. She sings back, a note, half a key higher, her voice effulgent, sharp as the end of innocence. A hawk cry, wild. The world goes bang, muzzle flash of brilliant warning, and they're both running, shoulder to shoulder, trading improvisations. Each riff complicates their tracks a little further. Every stanza ripples through creation until the waves become a crush and there is only their strophic clamor, the pounding of their cresting voices, almost enough to smother the shrieks of the encroaching dark. But then something. No, 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 more lies, no, no. It ends like this. Deacon opens his eyes to a rocky precipice, a thin jut of land cordoned by an ineffectual fence, the wood long rotted, then broken besides. Below, Arkham. From this distance, the city looks pathetica, a thread of twitching lights snaking across the shore, infinitesimally small beside the enormity of the woods, and smaller still when juxtaposed against the gulf below. The sound of voices drags Deacon's attention from the edge. Blinking owlishly, every thought viscous and slow, he angles an incurious look to his right. A monstrous moon crouches over the scene, limning the golden-brown sinuosity of a cello in silver. Where'd it come from, Deacon wonders. There's something wrong here. The longer he stares, the more it unsettles, the wood bleeding into mist, barely real. Anna, swaying beside the instrument, mouth salivating gore, doesn't seem to notice. The air chitters with voices, words he can barely hear. The bluesman smacks his lips, willing speech but finding his tongue clumsy instead, a slab of meat slightly too big for his jaw. No language emerges. He stands and staggers, falls as something lashes across his vision and spears his cheek. The taste of copper spumes across his tongue. Anna, he realizes. Every voice, faceted and fragmented, they're all hers. Deacon hits the ground hard, his knees catching the worst of the impact. Villi, spongy and stretched to garrotes, extend to circle his throat and wrists, his knees and his ankles, his long musician fingers. They pull, but gently, so very gently. A tug here, a nudge there, compelling him onward. Deacon doesn't fight, lets it walk him toward where Anna waits, her face haunted. Leave him alone, she whispers to no one. Her eyes, sclera and pupil, are black and bloodied. Anna? He swallows. There's no one here. You're safe. You can put me down. In reply, Deacon senses it before he hears it, the word that's purling on her tongue, a high-pitched intonation of hateful, hideous power, discharges a scream. But Deacon never hears the downbeat. He shrieks instead, almost in time. The fugue obliterated as his skull is perforated, his throat gorged with filaments, tear ducts invaded. Choking, overwhelmed, he thrashes in place, swung up into the air by unseen arms. Agony polyps. Something maps out the whorls of his brain, parietal cortex and medulla oblongata. Every fold parasitized. Mine, asserts a voice that Deacons learn to recognize as mother, maker, master. The electric rebuke jitters through his veins, and Deacon lets out another howl. Stop! 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 Anna's voice, a broken record loop. I'll play, I'll play, I'll play. The bluesman is discarded. He lands, splayed across the earth, an ankle wrenched and arm snapped. Bleeding, Deacon rises in time to see Anna seat herself on a stool, her small frame dwarfed by the instrument. A hand slides across the fingerboard, tenderly tracing the placement of a chord. Not quite touching, not yet. Her fingertips hover, waiting, barely grazing the strings. She rests a cheek against the cello's throat, breathes in, and shuts her eyes before she sets the bow in motion. A single glimmering note, held in fermata. Oaken, warm, more beautiful than it has any right to be. This coda of the universe. And if Deacon ever had any doubt she'd been the one at the diner, it's gone now. Then Anna begins to play, fingers gliding across the strings. The sonata that she constructs is nothing Deacon knows, no recognizable bass line, no pattern in creation. It wanders between movements, restless, metamorphosing between measures, entropy incarnated into an elaborate oratorio, praise for the void. First, legato, vivid stretches of quiet, almost mournful. Then allegro, then madness. No form, no function, noise inviolate. The air fulgurates and thickens, syrupy with potential. A smell seeps through, a sizzling pork odor married to something lush and rank, menstrual blood and rotting roses. Anna's performance grows wilder, more hopeless. Every passage and phrase gouges. She gasps through each new note, her eyes rolled up, her face hollowed with pain. The sky distends, aching under a terrible immensity. And just like that, it clicks, an understanding of what precisely Deacon is bearing witness to. Anna raises her head, blindly seeking, and the song that bleeds from her lips is both the beginning and the end of everything. Anna. Deacon finds his voice as Anna's breaks. As he watches, her hands go limp, falling from the cello. The girl, already so fragile, so breakable, sags against the instrument. Where did she find it anyway? But she's still singing somehow, and the air shivers with every numinous stanza, the notes amalgamating into a reality that allowed for an indifferent God, but not for a broken-hearted child. Anna, he repeats, no other words remaining to him. Deacon, he starts to his feet, and the world spasms, broken femur giving way. He drops with a crunch and begins to belly crawl, ruined arm cradled to his chest, nauseous with pain on all fronts. Anna, stop! No answer, but for those pustulant sounds, smoothed now into this unctuous dirge. He can feel her fading, feel her diminish. The tenuous glow of her recedes, masticated and redistributed through the noise and the hurt. In desperation, Deacon whistles in parallel, half a beat behind each syllable that falls from between her teeth, hoping it'd lead her back, a trail of pulped dreams. The song skips, falters for a sliver of a second. Anna, sweetheart, you have to stop this. You have to stop this. You can't keep singing. If you keep singing, you're going to stop. Anna, please, please, you have to stop. An outpouring of emotion, words jumbling, no lyricism or eloquence, just terror laid bare. Deacon, he sobs at the sound of his own name, grateful for even that microscopic victory. Yes, it's me. Anna, you gotta listen to me. We have to stop this. This world, she's going to end this world. I know what you said, I know. But if we don't give the place a chance, it'll never be better. We gotta fight, Anna. We gotta try. We can't let this happen. Please. He feels her slide out from between his fingers, her awareness dilaquescing into the rising chorus.
Deacon peels a note again, only to feel a hoof grind down on the back of his neck. Sing, the song demands. And Deacon thinks, why not? Which is fortunate, because even if he'd not been willing, the song would have choked out of his lungs anyway. Basal counterpoint to Anna's silver, like a shadow chasing the sun. The song modulates into rumbling consonants, gaining momentum. Right above the seam of the foggy horizon, a storm stitches itself together. As the music bites down, the bluesman does what he's done 10,000 times before. He gives in, dives down into the heart of it.
But this is no sacred communion between musician and music, no innocent invention of art. The song rips at him for his misconceptions, winnowing at his id until at last he learns the currency of this metaphorical country. It is ravenous, that song. It's always been. Starved for the things that make Deacon him. It tears out gobbets of his recollections, sucking them down, chewing. Morsels of his soul to feed whatever it is that's growing inside. When Deacon realizes that, well, he does what he has to do. Parceling out superficial memories, scraps that he can do without. Summer days and the feel of a warm cup laced between his fingers. Bribing her to look the other way. Deacon sings tremolo, shifting keys with every pass, going lower and slower. When Anna moves to follow, he calls out, "Is this what you want?" "No hope," comes the ciphered reply. "No hope." The song adjusts to his machinations, crescendos again toward parturition, birth pangs shuddering with flashes of apocalyptic imagery. The earth turned to flesh, the skies teethed and beaded with eyes. But twice more, Deacon disrupts the ligature, cultivating dissonance every which way he can, tempo and timing intentionally defied. He pulls them away, away. And between the errors he creates, Deacon cries, "Is this what you want?" "No hope," Anna returns, a flickering light. No hope. But Deacon hasn't come this far to give up. She'd saved him, hadn't she? Twice now, in fact. If her nihilism was so absolute, why had she gone to the trouble? "Please," he begs, humming a solfege of curated recollections. Every happiness he'd pried from this earth, however minute. Every smile, every hand offered in wantless charity. Every meal partaken at a table ringed by family, no matter if they were found or flesh. Please. It's too late anyway. Anna's voice, scared and sad, cuts between the phrases, a needle jittering over the record of history. "I can't. We can't. This is over." He blinks through the blood curtaining his eyes, his head twitched up. Despite himself, Deacon smiles. Anna is still in there somewhere. And he sings, although there's no room to breathe, his lungs and ribs crushed flat to the soil. Shaking, he hums his intent into the pivot of a note. "This is not over. This is never over. This can't be over." "Yes," returns the song, twisting his words into a vision of his father, dying and dead, the flesh leached from his bones, shriveled up, parched. "Yes, it's over," it says through his father's yellowed snarl. Gone, the song tells Deacon. No hope left. But the bluesman won't bend. He gives it cuts from his heart, slivers of who he is, was, could be. The song, ravenous, consumes it all. A distraction, a sacrifice. As she, he thinks, the terrible geometry of her alphabetized behind his eyes, gorges itself on the offering. Deacon, already on the platform waiting for death's train to come in, whispers, "Please." In the firmament, something thrashes, slowly suffocating, like an old man drowning in his own lungs. And a plan congeals. "Please." He swathes the undersong in everything he remembers, ornaments it with every bit of good he's seen. A warm bed on a storm-strangled night, fresh bread, a mother's compassion, a parade of donations pushed silently into trembling hands. A girl striding from the darkness, staring down the barrel of a nightmare, all to save one stranger's soul. Please. Are you sure? Yes. Like he's been certain of nothing else before. A birth is a process, after all, a procedure with a beginning and an end. A child does not emerge complete. It must be coaxed and coerced through the womb, observed so it doesn't choke. But what if it wasn't? What if it was intentionally smothered in the canal? This is going to kill you. He hesitates. To his surprise, he discovers only a guilty relief. His song will change the world,
And isn't that all any musician ever wants? A giddy, half-crazy laugh. Yes. Deacon, sing. Anna's song is not an ending. It isn't a beginning either. Her song is the present. It is the sharp green smell of the bayou and ocean salt crystallizing on warm brown skin. It is the sound of the breeze murmuring secrets through autumn leaves. It is grit and loam and snowmelt. It is transient things and eternity. It is death and life and children gambling in the schoolyard, shrieking. It is the lost saving the lost. Mostly, though, it is clean. Giddily, Anna barrels between movements, surging faster with every passage, every measure resplendent with another description of the world as is. With a voice of crystal, she delineates the boundaries of creation, circumscribes what is and is not permitted in its glittering heart. Horizons jeweled with stars, people full of mistakes, beauty and grotesquerie all in the same breath. And the hope, the trust that maybe, one day, it'll get better. But not this God thing, no. There's no place for this aberration, not this birth, not this vessel already dying in the sky, half-formed. Each time Anna changes keys, Deacon's there, his voice functioning in scordatura, always an octave lower, prepared to catch her. Each verse she hums, reality thickens, ossifies against the coming of the end. And the thing in the firmament wails its fury, struggling to be. It doesn't go easy, aware now that it put faith in the wrong soil. Each time it screams, the world shakes, and Deacon flings himself in the way, allows it to tear at him, his identity abraded, eroded. With what is left, the bluesman weaponizes his own faltering cavatina, rebuilding himself to capture Anna's song and magnify it to a roar. Because you can't change the world alone, but oh, you can do it together. You can, you can, you can. Deacon, keep going. Something punctures Deacon's chest, his lungs, the skin of his palms. It scrapes him for inspiration, for fuel to create something new. But there's barely anything left. Deacon's given it all up for her. He convulses, he's dying, but that's okay. Above, reality is choking down the monster, and he can feel it withdrawing already, too small, too weak to do this on its own. Not dead, Deacon thinks. You can't murder that which is eternal, that which will lie until death itself passes. But you can slow it, cripple it, hobble it. You can hurt your nightmares. It's a two-way street. Deacon, please. His childhood memories, he kept them for last. He presses them into her palms as the last of him winks to stardust, a gift. His youth to make up for the one she'd lacked. His joy, his mother's love, his father's smile. Chestnuts roasted in brown sugar. Buttery cornbread coming apart on the tongue. Stars above in a black ink sky, glittering like diamonds, like ice on a window festooned with Christmas lights. The certainty that the world will go on. 1 minute, 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week. You hold on, okay? No matter what. He can feel her crying, grasping at him as he thins to nothing. And the bluesman thinks to himself, who knows if this is the right way to go? But gosh, Deacon decides with one final laugh, if this hasn't been one hell of a show. On the morning after the world should have ended, John Persons finds a girl sat on a rocky outcropping overlooking the ocean. He strides up the scuffed-up dirt path, hands in his pockets, a new book wedged under his arm. Where is? Where dark eyes flick over a body covered by a woolen coat. The worn-down cloth dyed some shade of highway grit. The corpse's arms have been folded beneath the thick fabric.
There's a hat on its chest. You knew this was going to happen, says the girl, her back still turned. The wind tendrils through her hair, and for a moment she looks like something else. Can I sit down? Free country, they tell me. Anna kicks her feet, her fingers spooled on her lap, tangled around the box of Deacon's Chesterfields. Sit wherever you want. Persons settles beside her, a knee pulled to his chest. He glances at the cigarettes, eyebrows raised. You smoke? She shrugs. I might as well. I'd start with filtered. They've got a more consistent taste. Milder, too. I was kidding. Also, who the hell do you think you are? You're supposed to be warning me against smoking. In 65 years, that's all they ever talk about. You know what I'm talking about? Sure do. So what is wrong with you? Despite her blandishments, Anna taps a cigarette free from the pack and presses it between her teeth. Free country, Toots. She doesn't answer. Glad we've got that cleared. Anyway. Persons ignites his own cigarette and tips the lighter toward Anna, who shrugs again, expression still undecipherable. What now? Don't know. You stopped her from coming through. I guess I did. What made you change your mind? She doesn't answer. Then, what we did, it's not permanent, is it? She'll come back. Yes, one day this will all belong to them. Persons exhales smoke. The sky is blue and raw and cold. But not yet. What are you going to do now? I don't know. Go to school, maybe? See about finding family that isn't tied up to this craziness. People who won't want to sacrifice me to a god. Get married one day. Have babies. She inhales, shuddering. Or maybe go south and see what I can do about finding a voice for the other women there. Deacon's mom is there, you know. I think she'd like to know what happened to her son. Maybe. She might not. Either way, I'm going to go down and see how she's doing. Deacon's memories. Ugh, sounds like a plan. Was this worth it? Anna plucks the unlit cigarette from her lips and begins tearing at the wrapping, rubbing her fingers through the compressed tobacco. The detritus floats from her hands, carried by a breeze. Him dying? Is any of what happened worth anything in the grand scheme of things? No, but it's not worth it. Persons wraps ash and embers from his own cigarette. If you get what I'm saying, there will always be monsters, but there are always going to be people like you, too. Anna swallows. Deacon. People like Deacon. I wanted the world to end. He stopped me. Hate to be the bringer of bad news, but he wouldn't have been able to do a very thing if you hadn't cooperated, Toots, Persons replies, not unkindly. I don't want him to be forgotten. I don't think he minds. He's dead. Yes. So, what possible reason could you have to care whether or not he's remembered? Because I want people to know what he did for me. Because I want everyone, every man, woman, and child to know what he gave up. Her cheeks flush, but she won't cry. She won't. Not in front of Persons. No one is going to know, though. Not a soul. The world is going to just keep turning, and no one will ever know what Deacon did for me. He was kind to me. He. The two lapse into an edgeless, troubled quiet, interrupted only by a sound that could be construed as sobbing. And even if it is, neither says anything. Then, I don't know what to do. You're peddling your fish in the wrong market. Did you get what you wanted out of all this? I feel like I might have screwed up your plans. Another shrug. Ruined whatever you intended, whatever you were trying to get out of, whatever. Yes? No? Some definition of maybe. And to Anna's surprise, Persons is smiling when she casts her eyes in his direction. A feral expression. You dry-gulched the bird for me. You frightened her, I think. Or at least you pissed her off. A haze of smoke drifts up. More importantly, you gave me the chance to find what I was looking for. Anyway, there are always other opportunities. I've got all the time in the world. Yeah. Another count of silence. You need help with the body? No. Anna rises with a wisp of fabric, dusting herself off, arms pebbled from the cold. I can take care of us. Besides, and I say with all due respect, Mr. Persons, I don't think Deacon would want you to be there when he's put to his rest. Fair enough. Persons pushes onto his feet. Just so you know, I'll be hanging around at the bottom of the hill, just for about half an hour or so, just because. If for some reason you find yourself wanting to catch a ride going south, I might know a guy heading that way. If not, well, there's a saxophone that needs a home. I'd appreciate you taking it off my hands. Thank you. As Persons walks away, he hears a voice raise itself through the cold, a trembling, soprano, high and sweet. The song is an old one, a folk song, a boggin, the hymn of a dead man. But soon it changes, timbre mellowed to a funerary richness, an improvisation told from beyond the grave. It becomes a grief and a graciousness, a bittersweet gratitude, a relief that the suffering is gone, gone. And oh, finally, a good man can sleep.